Hey there, welcome into Unpaid Interns. It is Friday morning, March 19th. It's an exciting time here in Indiana. March Madness starts today in full swing across the state of Indiana, and so many IU sports going on, so much excitement. We got a great Friday guest for you. The head coach of the Indiana softball team, Shonda Stanton, joins me today. Coach, it's great to have you on. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me on.
And Coach, we were just talking about it. You were down in Florida last weekend, your second weekend down in the Orlando area, 12 games through 7-5, a really strong start to the season for you guys. Obviously, it's been an unusual season, very different, I'd imagine, than in all your years of coaching. What are your kind of takeaways of your team so far through the first month of the season?
Well, first and foremost, I'm just so proud of our group. I think when you look at the course of the year, they've been extremely disciplined. They've been really committed to the mission. We talk all the time, mission trumps all. And their goal was kind of to dominate the standard and put in the work. And then when you do that, you win the day. And so I'm really proud of our group. And I'm really thankful to be at Indiana, where the administration led by Mr. Dolson and his crew on down, and the medical team are affording us the opportunity to play. And that's what we get to do, is we get to go out and play. Florida was unbelievable. The tournament director of the spring games, Skeeter Gentile, was a Michigan alumni, and they treated us so well down there. All 14 Big Ten teams playing 85 games over 2 weekends. To be able to pull that off in this climate was pretty huge. So we're just fortunate to be out playing, and we're really pleased with our group, and we're pleased with the early season results of what we're seeing.
And the moment, I think, of your guys' season so far had to actually be that last game in Florida last Sunday. Gabby Jenkins stealing a home with 2 outs in the bottom of the 10th to tie the game. You would win it on a walk-off in the 11th inning to sweep Rutgers. Can you kind of just take me through that decision for her to steal? And then I saw you, nearly get the home plate celebrating with Gabby. Can you just take me through that whole moment?
Sure. I tell you, though, what was so amazing, not only about that moment, that game had so many game-changing plays. Taylor Lambert throws a girl out at the plate in late innings. Brooke Benson gets moved over to short, and she completes a double play and some really nice plays. We had play after play, little thing after little thing happen that really afforded the opportunity to set up the game-tying run in the 10th. And then the walk-off by Benson, which was a game changer, a great moment for her, too, as a freshman, to be able to have that moment. I think if I'm going to talk about that moment, I got to back up a little bit and talk about a text that I received from Taylor Gooden, who was a part of the very first year when we got the job here at Indiana. And she was pretty fired up, as everybody was, about that play. And when we were texting back and forth, one of the things that she had texted was that is a moment that happens over a period of time because of a culture change and a commitment to her training change. And I tell you, that couldn't be any more true. That just didn't happen overnight, that Gabby had the ability to do that. And I think what we see in Gabby Jenkins is a kid that ever since we got the job here has bought in wholeheartedly to what we were trying to accomplish here, was so a part of the vision of what we see Indiana softball can be. And as a result, she is ready in those big time moments. And she's a kid I want to set up too. She knew going in. She came up to me that weekend and said, I'm 18 stolen bases away from the IU stolen base career record. I'm a little bit faster than you think I was from the fall. She was coming back from an injury. So she set all that up mentally. And then here's another tip I'll give you, Griffin. It's so important. I'll get to the moment, but it's so important to surround yourself with people that are going to set you up to win. And that's what we talk to our athletes all the time about. And I've got a staff, Kettle Fern and Chatterbell, that have been with me for 8 years. And, before we go out every half inning, Kettle and I talk about the offensive lineup and who we have coming up. And she says to me, hey, we don't need to bunt in these situations here with Gabby. She's at second. She's the all-time, she's going to be the all-time IU career leader in stolen bases. And then, here she is across the field, constantly nudging me and urging me to give that steal sign. And so when you're on mission, you have the confidence to do things like that. And so we were talking across the field. We called timeout, let Grace know, Kendall let Grace know that at some point in time we may steal home. We would have liked her to stay a little bit in the box a little bit longer, but she did a really good job of playing it off. And then in that moment, there were a couple cues that we were looking for to wait and see what we could do. Leaned into Gabby and said, hey, You're going to steal home at some point in time during this at bat. And then when the pitch was right, leaned back in and said, yeah, let's take it right now. And she said something back, and then I reiterated something, and she was off. And there was no hesitation. It was a reckless abandon. When the way she flew into home, she made that happen. So she made that happen because she's trained hard for the last 4 years. And to be having a moment like that was pretty huge.
Certainly a memorable moment. It was D1 softball's top play of the week across the country, so got a lot of attention. You're talking about Gabby Jenkins. I mean, you mentioned it. She's going to break the all-time steals record for IU softball. She's 12 of 14 already on stolen bases this year. What makes her such an effective stealer of the bases?
It's the wanting, the desire of that next 60 feet. You know, if I put Gabby on a stopwatch, she's not the fastest kid, that I've ever coached, but she's got green speed. So she's got great plus speed. But it's her heart. It's her desire. It's the want of the next 60 feet. It's that ability to say lion mode, to have a goal and to chase it. And that's what it's about. I've had fast kids too that maybe don't run bases as well. But in an instant, I know Gabby, and she's smart. I think that's the difference. She knows, she has a softball IQ. She listens to the training. She knows what we're looking for. So to set up that play at home too, we were able to steal third. We did try and bunt up. We weren't successful. The shortstop was covering third a little bit too tight. And then when you know it, she takes 2 steps back and 1 step over towards second. And that was enough for us to be able to steal third. And so in that situation, Gabby's always looking. She's always ready. She's not missing the sign. When she does make a mistake, she's first up. So she has all the intangibles that you need to be a successful base runner.
Since really you've joined the Bloomington staff 4 years ago and took over as head coach, stolen bases have been a big part of the program, a big part of your mentality. I believe actually on Saturday you guys set the single game record for most stolen bases in IU softball history, 10 stolen bases in the game. Why are steals such an integral part of the game for you, and what do you feel like, you kind of talk about that the culture in the program? What do you feel like that does for the culture?
Yeah, what's our identity? When I got the job here at IU, and I'm very grateful and thankful for the staff previously. They recruited Gabby and a lot of the tremendous athletes that we've had a chance to coach. And when I got the job, there just wasn't an identity when you looked at the score sheet, when you looked at the box score. I didn't see a number of speed situations or power situations. The ERA, was pretty average. The fielding percentage was low. And so we talked to our team about building an identity. And what's that identity look like? And in life, nobody's going to give you anything. You got to take what you want. You see an opening, and that door is cracked. You got to be the one to walk through the door. You can't be on the sidelines. You got to get yourself in the game. So if you're an intern and you look around, how can you help? Maybe you did your task, for the day, but you go up to the boss and say, hey, I'm here to help. What can I do? Or you don't even ask, you just chip in. And so that's kind of our identity, is you take what you want in life, and that lion mode, that you're going to pounce on things. Nobody's going to give you anything. And, Michigan coming in here next weekend is not going to hand us anything. Northwestern, they didn't hand us anything, last weekend. You got to take what you want. And so that was kind of our whole message, is that we're going to go after things. We're going to stretch that single into a double. We're going to go first to third on any ball in the dirt. We're going to take it. And so, we know here we got a long ways to go. We want to build a program that sure steals 100 bases a year. And I'd love to get close to 100 home runs a year. We're nowhere near that. But the 100 stolen bases we've gotten since day one, since we've arrived on campus, that has not been a challenge, because it's a mentality. There's a lot that needs to happen on a stolen base. And so we believe it favors us, even with a runner that may be a yellow. The green runners are going to go, the yellow with the mentality are going to go, and the red will have a shot too. So it was just really about building an identity here and what we want to be about, building the strong, confident women. And I think we're well on our way.
You mentioned that Northwestern series. You guys got swept earlier in the weekend, last weekend down in Leesburg, bounced back and then sweep Rutgers. What did that kind of say about your team, that you guys, after having some tough games against the Wildcats, both some blowout losses and some really tight losses, have been able to turn around and sweep the Scarlet Knights?
Yeah, I was really pleased with how we responded. I give credit where credit's due. And Northwestern's a great ball club. Those coaches have been there 20 plus years. They've got World Series experience, and the team is well on their way. And, we did not play well that first day. We joked around a little bit about the circus being in town. In 20 plus years of coaching, I hadn't seen that poor of a defensive effort. It didn't matter where the ball was hit, whether it was a ball dropping between the infield and outfield, whether it was any ground ball in the infield, whether it was throwing errors. You play catch well, you play well, Griffin. This game's not that hard. And I felt for our athletes because nobody goes out there wanting to fail. We did not perform well day one. You can't do that against any ball club in the Big Ten, let alone Northwestern. And I think that's what we're seeing where it hurts us, being in the Big Ten, that we haven't had the chance to play those preseason games. When you open up with Big Ten play, you can't take any pitch off. You're going to be challenged from the get-go. So it was huge for us to be able to bounce back after getting swept. We could have folded. But man, we came out and that first day, we pounded out 20 hits, 20 stolen bases. The defense was perfect. Our pitching was solid. We had all phases of the game. We really needed that bounce back series, and it was great to see us finish. And then Sunday, we could have been very content, taking 2 of the 3, and we kept battling, we kept fighting, and that was awesome to see as well. So really proud of this group. We got a lot of quality athletes in this bunch, and we're excited to go to battle with them any day of the week.
Well, one high-level player on your squad is Emily Gooden. She has been the workhorse for you guys in the circle and had a really special start to her season last year. Again, has been really good. 42 strikeouts, averaging just over, allowing 1 base runner per inning. What kind of makes her a special player in the fifth-year senior? Also, what does her leadership kind of do to the whole pitching room?
No, she's called Dirty 30 for a reason. The pitches are dirty. They got a lot of spin. Anytime you want to come out and try and hit off of her, we'll let you see what that looks like. But you sit there in the dugout and you're like, well, why are the hitters not hitting her when we're in practice or those types of things? And but then when you watch her ball, coming from the home plate area, she got a lot of movement and she knows how to spin it well. And she's got a couple good pitches that are go-to and they're money. And I think when you talk in terms of super senior, there's a different air about yourself, a different level of confidence. And I had the ability to challenge her on that Sunday. Do you want the game ball? Because I think what happens in your head is I've been pitching every day this weekend. I've pitched a lot of innings because some of these kids have not been in that situation. And it was great to be able to really challenge Gooden and saying, do you want this game ball right now? Do you want to run back out there? Because this game's on your shoulders right now, or do you want us to pass it off? And she accepted the challenge. And, fortunately, we were able to stay the course and be able to score there late to walk it off. But there's something to say about, experience is a great teacher. There's something about maturity, and there's something about having been there and done that. We can't be any more grateful for not only Emily Gooden, but our entire super senior class. Every one of them has added so much to solidifying what the culture of Indiana softball under our leadership is going to be. And if it wasn't for Emily and the rest of her classmates, I don't know what this year would have been like. I don't know if I would have wanted to go through COVID with such a young group and a different mentality. They've done a phenomenal job of how they've walked through any challenge that we've had, and it's credit to them and the women that they are.
I've talked with a lot of coaches about, the challenges of the past year, and it's been a year since everything shut down. And you guys were in a unique position. You were actually the last IU sport that played a game down in Madeira Beach. And I think Emily Gooden was pitching, and the word came down from, I remember talking to Sam Niederman about this, who was your play-by-play announcer last year. And the word got down, shut down in the 4th inning, and kind of knew that was it. What was that experience like? And then what's just been the last year like? Making sure everyone stays in contact, stays in shape, and not really knowing when the season's going to come back.
Yeah, you're talking almost a year from this past week when we were there, and it was another beautiful sunny day. You had the palm trees in the back. We come off. Gooden did pitch a nice game there. And I remember, you knew the feel. Everybody had been watching things, and you kind of knew what may be happening. I thought maybe we'd get through March Madness and then be shut down, and then when you started seeing the NBA shut down a little bit, we knew it was coming, and we were in the game at one point in time, and Bella had gotten on, and we were going to pinch run for her, but I think she would have been done maybe at that point in time. And Coach Fern and I called timeout and went across, and I said, hey, that we talked, this may be it, for our seniors, and so let's stay because we didn't know. And sure enough, that ended up being it. And I think anytime you deliver news like that about an ending that is out of your own control, it's hard. And I think sometimes you just got to be still and be silent. So you give them the news, you give them the opportunity to kind of cry and be with each other. And then our coaches and our staff all jumped into action, and we had a wonderful celebration down there. And it was pretty nice. And we had some time too at the beach before we flew home. We weren't able to get out right away. Moving that many people across the country takes a little bit of time. And so I really felt, had that been it, and that they had not had a chance to come back, it would have been a shame, right? Because we're not enjoying the moments that, we have now. But I really felt that our players and our staff did a tremendous job of just being down there and being together and connecting and celebrating each other. And I think anytime you go through a hardship or challenge, it's about who's to the right of you, who's to the left of you, and really taking care of each other. And I feel like this squad continues to do that. They take care of each other. And that makes me obviously very proud. And one of the reasons that coaching is one of the best professions out there. And so now you flash forward, and who would have thought a year ago, right? And all the testing measures that we're doing, thankful and grateful for the testing staff. And think of all the things that go into the product for us to just go out there and play. Baseball is going to be playing this weekend. I was watching all the footage as we were pulling the tarp a little bit ago of all the highlights coming up on the video board. And how exciting, all the stuff that goes in, the opportunity for that first pitch to be thrown today, right? And so not everybody gets to see the thankless efforts of everybody behind the scenes. But we're pretty darn grateful and very appreciative to wear the Indiana script every time we have that opportunity to do it.
Certainly a great point. One thing I noticed was looking through the stats for you guys' team compared to last year. Your guys' hitting has actually, and run-wise, has increased statistically from last year, and didn't end up actually playing any Big Ten games last year. So have had a more challenging schedule, but have been able to produce some more runs this season. What improvements, what changes have you guys felt like you've made hitting-wise with your team so far?
Well, we have some veteran kids in the lineup. You look at Bella Norton, how that hot start she got off to, opening weekend, and what was she, 4 for 4, I think, in that Minnesota game. We had knocked them off at that point in time. They were ranked, in the top 25. And, I think that's what it takes. You have to have some veteran kids in the lineup that can pass the bat and set the tone. And I think we're seeing some of that. And, and I think we're in a good place as far as our systems getting into play and our training and kind of understanding counts a little bit better. We want to throw the first punch. So when you have an 0-0 count, you got to be able to throw that first punch. And what does that swing look like when you're throwing a punch, right? You don't want a little jab. You really want to cock them right in the face, right? You want to punch them right in the nose. And so I think we're getting better at understanding what that looks like. And we got a long ways to go. Believe me, we've been hot and cold. And if you look at our stat sheet, you want to talk about identity. When I got the job, it's kind of, I'm looking at it today and saying, hey, we're not playing to our identity at times. But we've had so many clutch moments too. And I think that's what's crucial. When you look at our lineup up and down, anytime we've made a change, whether it's B Ford, we call her B Clutch, coming in and getting a grand slam the other day. Any kid that's come in off of our bench to either pinch run or pinch hit, they're scoring or they're getting the clutch bunt down, the clutch hit down. We're seeing a lot of great things, and it'll be fun to watch this team continue to grow. We've only had 2 weekends out. Normally we would have played 7 weekends by now. You look across the country, everybody's played a ton of games. And so it's going to be fun the deeper we go into the season and see what this group is doing by the end of the season.
We've mentioned a couple standout players, and you mentioned some of the experienced players that are super seniors able to come back for a 5th year. Who are maybe some of the younger players that maybe going into the year, either we weren't talking about, or people weren't paying as much attention to, that have really stood out and contributed through the first 2 weekends?
Well, gosh, every one of our freshmen, they've all done something great. So you look at Grace behind the plate. She hit her first long ball this past weekend, but she had a moment where there was a play that we run on a 1st and 3rd that we were able to do a double play with her. She's had some big moments already. She's gotten time behind the plate. She's gotten some time at first, so that's been great. Macy, I had a really great, travel ball career and experience, a really huge competitor. She had a fall where she had some injuries and, working through some things. And when that kid gets refined, she's going to be something special to watch. She's had some moments too, which has been good to see. She had some shutout innings. I think it was against Minnesota, and we know we can go to her offensively too. Amber Linton, I think when you look at the early case between the 5 freshmen, has really been huge. And one weekend she had 3 wins. And so, she's someone that, kind of has a little bit of a chip on her shoulder and wants to prove some things. And, I think when you look at those 2 freshman pitchers, our future is incredibly bright. When you look at what Linton's doing, that's been fun to watch and exciting to see. Leah came in, got some really good playing time this past weekend, executes a hit and run right off the bat. So again, we have all these options. You look at Brooke Benson, she's played at second. She's played some time at third. Now she's played at short. She gets the game-winning hit the other day. And so all these kids, even though the numbers may not be there, I think what they got to understand is patience. That's also a great teacher. And you have all these super seniors that have come back. So you got Bella behind the plate who has all these innings. Otherwise Grace and Dez would be our everyday starters and they'd be getting all that extra time. But Bella's back and that's exciting. I think we're stronger because of it. If you look at Gooden being back, that impacts Linton's innings, that impacts Macy's innings and every pitcher in between. We've got solid pitchers in between that as well that are older kids. And so I think for them, it's going to be, can you be patient? And when your number's called, just step up and do your job. And what we've seen from the 5 of them, they've done just that.
You kind of mentioned going down to Florida and having a late start to the season. It's been a little bit of a strange start where you normally would be playing every weekend, but you went down to Florida to start your season, 6 games at a weekend off, back down to Florida. You have this weekend off, and then finally get into more of a normal Big Ten stretch. How challenging, what challenges have that brought for the team, just kind of with the up and down schedule that you mentioned, the Big Ten only schedule as well?
Sure. I mean, there's hurdles everywhere. And again, we are extremely grateful. It does hurt. You look at Northwestern, who's sitting 11-1 and they can't break into the top 25. And that's only because you've had all these other teams that have played 20 plus games. And so they're ranking them ahead. And it's unfortunate. And it hurts the Big Ten. And so what you really got to do is you got to control what you can control. But I think going out and playing, the one thing that we'll focus on and the positive is that we're rested. We come back and, a few people that are working through some things, you have a chance to get rested. You have a chance to be able to work through if somebody's not feeling well. And you have the chance to take time to get better in practice. And so we'll focus on the positives, but yeah, would we much rather be out there playing? You bet. But we're grateful for the time that we do get. But I am curious to see how it's going to impact the Big Ten as a whole. When you look at large bids, I think that's been a challenge because you see some of these teams who played 20 games non-conference. The stats are out the roof. When you look at All-American honors and that type of stuff. And so for us, it's may not necessarily be about those individual accolades. It's going to be about where can we get to the finish line, because the first opponent is COVID. So can we get to the finish line with everybody there? And the second opponent is, hey, this is a rare opportunity for us to play everybody in the Big Ten. And so you're going to have true champion. You're going to have some true rankings in that regard. So that's an exciting opportunity because that never happens in any given year with 14 teams. You don't get to play everybody. And so we welcome that. We're excited about that. And we get to host Michigan next weekend for our home opener. And so it's always about, hey, what can we do today to get just a little bit better? And I like the direction our group is heading.
You mentioned that Michigan series, certainly a big series. The Wolverines are right now the only Big Ten team ranked in the top 25, and Michigan, a powerhouse program that's obviously had a lot of success in the last 10 years. What's the opportunity for the team to play a team like that, especially when you get to open up Andy Moore Field for the 2021 season? What do you see as the keys to getting some wins off the Wolverines?
Well, I won't be worried about our team being up and ready for the game. Anytime you welcome a quality opponent like that, and obviously Hutch is the all-time winningest coach in the history of our sport, and I appreciate her leadership. And really, we've got a ton of veteran leaders in our conference. And so, as a coach, I continue to grow and get better because of that. But it's like any other game. We're playing that little yellow ball. We're not really playing the Michigan Wolverines. It's are we going to take care of the ball and not extend innings? We know their strengths. Everybody does. They got two of the best pitchers when you look in terms of numbers in the offensive or the categories in terms of ERA and shutouts and strikeouts and those types of things. They're dominating their two pitchers. Where they've struggled a little bit or where they've been a little bit uncharacteristic is their offense. And so you can't afford to do what we've done, what we did against Northwestern or what we did against Nebraska, the one game where you boot the ball around a little bit. You extend the opportunity and give a team that knows how to win, that expects to be in big moments. It's not going to bode well. And so, I think at the end of the day, it's about us playing our style ball. And we got to take care of the ball and not extend innings. We got to work ahead in counts. Our pitching, we'll use whatever we need as far as pitching by committee. But we've got to be able to have just everybody do their job. We don't have to do anything extraordinary. We just got to out and do our job. And I like the matchup. I feel very confident in going in. I feel that Coach Bell does an awesome job with prepping our scouting reports and those types of things. We'll be prepared. That's not going to be an issue. Our kids will be up. The weather, I don't know. The forecast right now looks like a little bit of rain, but it's warming up here in B-Town, and so we're pretty excited to host Michigan next weekend for our home opener.
Fingers crossed the sun comes out. It's a beautiful spring weekend in Bloomington. It's certainly going to be this weekend. So
yeah,
hope that next weekend as well. You mentioned in a couple questions back kind of the big picture. And one thing that's you haven't been able to do but have gotten close the first 2 years was trying to make the NCAA tournament. Obviously last year didn't get that opportunity with everything shut down in March. Is that a goal that you talk about with your team? The seniors talk about, especially in their last year.
Oh, that's why they came back, and it's what we talk about all the time. And again, we can't worry about what RPI is going to look like because, RPI when half the conference is going to have a losing record because all we're playing is each other. That's where again it hurts. You mentioned Michigan being the only ranked Big Ten team. How does that even work? Why isn't Northwestern ranked right now? Why aren't a couple of the other teams ranked? And it's just, again, those are the things that are going to be out of our control. And so Selection Sunday is going to be out of our control. And so what you got to do is every time you go out there, you're trying to win the inning. You're trying to win the pitch. And then that adds up. And at the end of the day, the end result, you're trying to get that dub. And so I think if we take care of the process, we have a really good process-based system. If we take care of the freebies, and the freebies are not just what you think of in terms of walks or hit batters. It's all the little things in between. Hey, did you execute the sacrifice when you needed to? Did you miss a sign? Did you get that swipe bag when it was open? Did you take that next 60 feet when they bobbled the ball? Did you execute? The freebies are so much more than just your walks and your hit batters. It's the errors. Every little mistake adds up to a freebie. And so I think if we stick to our process, this group, has the opportunity to get us back to postseason, and then the goal would be to stay there. But I think the chips are, the deck is a little bit more stacked, against us when you look at the Big Ten and what that's going to look like for at-large bids. But I'm fully confident in this group that we can get there.
Well, Coach, to finish it off, I have a fun little game to play. I know that your team is really close, and you've certainly got to know your players really well, especially with your trips down to Florida. So going to do a couple of players' superlatives, give you a couple attributes, qualities, and see who you pick. So first question for you, who's the best jokester on the team?
B Ford, or B Clutch as we call her, I think is the best jokester is what I'm seeing from the group.
Any specific joke or anything that stands out from her?
No, she's laughing a lot. I see that group laughing a lot. So I think if you ask anybody, they'd probably back me up on that.
Okay. Well, we know that your team does a lot of dancing on the bases, a lot of stealing of the bases. Who's the best dancer on the team?
Oh gosh. That one I don't know. I haven't been out dancing with the group. But I will tell you, nobody gets much more excited than Gabby. And you saw that at home. After stolen base. So, we got a lot of them that get pretty excited, but I'm going to have to ask them who the best dance, they have a lot of dance parties. I'll have to find out.
Yeah. You kind of mentioned that excitement. Is it Gabby Jenkins? Who's the player before the game that really gets the team hyped up, excited, and ready to hit the diamond?
Gosh, Griffin, you're asking me all the toughest questions. That's their time. I don't spend a lot of time with them when they're doing that stuff. I want them to have their fun and be loose. So as a coach, I kind of stay in my zone and do my thing. But they have, and I do miss with COVID, gosh, our locker room celebrations pregame were always pretty fun. But this group's a pretty hype group. It's a group that understands the energy that we want. But I don't know. I'm going to have to get back to you on that, Griffin. I don't have an answer for you.
All right. I won't give you too many more hard questions. So just one more. Here's a fun one. And, you always look at leaders, someone that can, outside of softball could be the, CEO, president, who I guess is most likely to be president on your team, someone that stands out and is a leader and a problem solver.
Oh, gosh, we got a number there, too. I would say, what I've seen in Grayson, she established a women's organization within the department here for all women athletes. And, she's somebody that has that leadership hat on all the time. She's always thinking, for this program, how can we be better? How can we raise the bar? But I tell you, we've got a group of leaders, hands down, when I look at them, this is a tremendous group. And, I think they all have the ability to lead.
No, sounds like a great group, and Coach, off to a great start of the season. I really appreciate you coming on the Unpaid Interns podcast, and best of luck the rest of the season. Thank
you, Griffin, for having me on. Go IU.
That will do it for today's episode of Unpaid Interns. Thanks so much to head coach Shonda Stanton for coming on the podcast. IU season home opener a week from today at Andy Moore Field against Michigan. All their home games will be on BTN Plus, so you can check out the team there. If you've missed any of our podcasts this week or any in the last couple months, as always, you can check them out on the IU Sports Media YouTube channel or Twitter page, and you can listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. For head coach Shonda Stanton, I'm Griffin Epstein. We'll talk to you again with our next guest on Monday. Have a great weekend. So long, everyone.